Hey there, happiness seekers. Welcome to Elevate Daily, where we seek to give advice that can make your lives brighter and more fulfilling. Let me ask you something. When was the last time you were truly alone with your thoughts? No phone, no music, no scrolling, no background noise, just you and silence. For a lot of people, that silence feels uncomfortable now. And that's not an accident. Because today, distraction has become more than just a habit. It has become a lifestyle. The moment we feel bored, uncomfortable, anxious, or emotionally uncertain, we reach for something. Our phones, videos, music, social media, notifications, anything to avoid sitting still. And while distraction can feel comforting in the moment, there's a hidden cost to constantly escaping your own mind. Today, we're talking about the dangerous comfort of staying distracted all the time, and why it may quietly be affecting your happiness more than you realize. And before we dive in, if you enjoy thoughtful conversations about mental clarity, emotional well-being, and modern life, don't forget to like this video and subscribe to Elevate Daily. Now let's get into it. Let's start with something important. Distraction itself is not bad. Sometimes we need entertainment. Sometimes we need a break. Sometimes we genuinely want to relax. That's normal. The problem begins when distraction becomes our default response to discomfort. Because many people are no longer distracting themselves occasionally, they are distracting themselves constantly. Every quiet moment gets filled. Waiting in line? Scroll. Walking somewhere? Music. Eating alone? Video. Feeling stressed? More content. And eventually, your brain forgets how to simply be. Now here's where things get deeper. A lot of distraction is actually emotional avoidance. Not consciously, but psychologically. Because when the noise stops, thoughts start surfacing. Stress, loneliness, uncertainty, self-doubt.
And instead of processing those emotions, many people immediately escape into stimulation. Not because they're weak, but because modern distraction is incredibly effective. It gives the brain fast relief, a quick dopamine hit, a temporary emotional escape. And the brain learns very quickly, whenever I feel uncomfortable, distract yourself. Over time, this becomes automatic. And eventually, many people lose touch with themselves without even realizing it. Now let's talk about something subtle but powerful. Constant distraction doesn't just affect your focus, it affects your emotional depth. When your attention is constantly fragmented, your experiences become shallower. You stop fully processing moments. Conversations become half-present. Meals become background activities. Rest becomes another form of consumption. Even happiness becomes harder to feel deeply, because happiness often requires presence, and presence becomes difficult when your brain is constantly searching for the next stimulus. There's also something else happening. Your brain is becoming overstimulated. Modern content is designed to capture attention aggressively. Fast cuts, bright visuals, short-form videos, constant novelty. And while this keeps you engaged, it also changes your baseline for stimulation. Normal life starts feeling slower, less exciting, harder to focus on, which means silence begins to feel uncomfortable. Stillness feels boring, and meaningful activities that require patience become harder to engage with. Reading, thinking deeply, working steadily, even conversations,
All of it begins competing with the intensity of digital stimulation, and most real-life experiences lose that competition. Now here's the dangerous part. Distraction can create the illusion that you're coping, while preventing actual healing. You may feel fine because you're constantly occupied, but underneath the distraction, unresolved emotions often remain untouched. And because they're never processed, they linger quietly in the background.
Sometimes as anxiety, sometimes as exhaustion, sometimes as emotional numbness. This is why some people feel strangely empty, even though they're constantly entertained. Because stimulation is not the same thing as fulfillment. One keeps your attention occupied. The other nourishes your emotional life. Now, let's pause for a moment. Think about how often you consume something simply to avoid feeling uncomfortable. Not because you genuinely enjoy it, but because silence feels harder. That awareness matters. Because once you notice the pattern, you can begin changing it. And no, this doesn't mean throwing away your phone or living in isolation. This is about balance. It's about reclaiming your attention, your inner calm, your ability to sit with yourself again. So how do you actually begin doing that? First, create small moments without stimulation. Not huge dramatic changes, just small pauses. A short walk without your phone. A few quiet minutes in the morning. Driving without music occasionally. At first, your brain may resist. That's normal. It has become conditioned to constant input. But over time, your mind starts settling again. Second, learn to notice why you're reaching for distraction. Ask yourself, am I genuinely enjoying this? Or am I escaping something? That question alone can be incredibly powerful. Because awareness interrupts automatic behavior. Third, reintroduce activities that require presence. Reading, journaling, long conversations, creative hobbies, being in nature. These activities don't flood your brain with stimulation, they slow it down. And slowing down is often exactly what an overstimulated mind needs. Fourth, allow yourself to feel emotions without immediately escaping them. This one is difficult, but important. Not every uncomfortable emotion needs to be avoided. Sometimes sadness needs to be felt. Sometimes uncertainty needs to be acknowledged. Sometimes your mind needs silence long enough to process what's actually going on. And while that may feel uncomfortable initially, it's also where emotional clarity begins. Now here's something beautiful. When you stop constantly distracting yourself, life starts feeling more vivid again. Small moments feel richer. Your attention improves. Your thoughts feel clearer. Your emotions feel more genuine. And most importantly, you reconnect with yourself. Because underneath all the noise, there's still you. Your thoughts, your creativity, your inner world. But you can't hear yourself clearly if your mind is constantly crowded with input. Before we wrap up, I want you to reflect on something honestly. What are you constantly distracting yourself from? Stress? Loneliness? Fear of slowing down? Fear of your own thoughts? Whatever the answer is, you don't have to solve it overnight. But noticing it is the first step. Because distraction may feel comforting in the short term,
But clarity only comes when you're finally willing to sit with yourself. If this video resonated with you, if it made you reflect on your own habits in a new way, don't forget to like the video and subscribe to Elevate Daily. We're building a space where growth is thoughtful, calm, and deeply human. And I'd love to hear from you. Do you think modern life has made it harder to sit alone with your thoughts? And what's one distraction you'd like to become more mindful of? Share your thoughts in the comments. Your honesty might help someone else feel understood. Until next time, slow down, protect your attention, and remember, constant distraction may feel comforting, but real peace begins when you stop running from yourself. I'll see you in the next one.